of the internet. I'm that F King guy, and it's time once again for TotalCultZone presents another new movie review. On this show, we're heading off into the woods to sit around a campfire and tell some tales of terror, fear, dread, and horror. Like that time Liz Truss was in charge of the country. Sorry, it's hard not to get political with today's guest. You lot can listen to a clip of the film while I get this fire started. This twisted fire started.
Before any man set foot on this soil, there was an evil here. It lived in this place. There is a custom that we carry out on every tour. You tell a story that you fear.
Charlie?
A fable that haunts you. There's a way of feeding the evil that resides here. Who's brave enough to talk to the dead?
You are good. A bit old school, but I like it.
So that was a clip from the film Law. I'll get to what that is in a second after I introduce the guest reviewer for it, Mr. Captain J Spaulding.
How do?
How are you doing, sir?
I'm alright. I'm good.
No, I'm going to get to the press stuff in a sec, and then you can let everyone know your thoughts and opinions. As a little taste, though, can you express your thoughts through the power of mime? What you thought of this film?
Mime. I can't, because it's not that. It's not. It's a little more nuanced than it was.
Mime's not speaking. You've just
I know,
got
I can't
express
do mime.
express
On a
it.
podcast, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Just give me a quick clue. Okay.
Just imagine it's the opening to the French Olympics. Like that. I did all of that. It was brilliant. While Gajira scream about revolution.
Okay, press release. Kaleidoscope Home Entertainment is thrilled to announce the release of horror film Law, premiering exclusively on the Icon Film channel from the 26th of August. A gripping and gruesome anthology horror. This highly acclaimed film, which premiered at FrightFest 2023, stars Richard Brake from Doom and Hannibal Rising. Credits. Andrew Lee Potts, The Witcher and Primeval. Bill Fellows from Ted Lasso and Lady Macbeth. And Rufus Hound from Hounded and Queens of Mystery.
And Dave. Mostly Dave.
Mostly what we know him from, yeah. Four young thrill-seeking friends book a horror-themed camping excursion led by Darwin, a strange and eccentric guide. One night around the campfire, Darwin encourages them to tell the scariest and most twisted story they can think of, as they recount tales of sinister spirits and malevolent demons. The group soon realizes that these stories will have very real consequences for them all. Sums it up. So I got you for this one, as I think you've been to a few FrightFest things over the years.
I have, yeah. Not so much recently because, responsibilities and money and sitting on your ass for 4 days watching films is less appealing now than it used to be, frankly.
So this one hasn't already crossed your radar?
No. So I was aware of some of the movies from the last FrightFest, which is, it's good that we're doing this now because the new FrightFest is soon to take place. The end of this month. So I watched this without any expectations. I didn't read anything about it. I watched the trailer, saw Richard Brake, which was good enough for me, to be honest. I can't believe they left off 31 and like the fucking Free From Hell, which are his best movies.
I was looking at his credits and yeah, he has a lot on there.
Yeah, he's done loads and most of it you've never heard of. But that's like almost everyone Rob Zombie uses. Sid Haig was in like 187 films and I've seen 4. And he's great at them.
It's true. I think it's Doom. Is that the one with the rock in?
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, he did do Game of Thrones as well. Yeah, it's an old one. So any highlights from those events you've been to in the past? Any films you'd actually sort of shout out for that didn't get any love or appreciation you think they deserved?
I mean, there's loads of great movies from FrightFest over the years anyway, and a lot of them did go on to quite a bit of acclaim. Like we saw Pan's Labyrinth there for like before anyone, and it became like a huge global hit. And it was obviously for like amazing. Guillermo del Toro was there before anyone really knew who he was, and did like a Q&A. It was great. I'm trying to think what else, because I haven't been. I think the last one we went to seriously was probably about 10 years ago. Although we've done a few like occasional
Just
single
yeah.
viewings. But I can't remember because I've said I'm at the point where I think I've completed horror as well, because I periodically get Shudder sort of every 6 months, watch the 5 movies I haven't seen, and then delete it and then come back 6 months later because I've literally seen everything on the entire platform.
Yeah, I did feel that way about Shudder when we got it for a little bit. It's like, is that it?
Yeah, I mean, it's better now. They've got loads, but I've seen it all. I've just clocked horror, unfortunately. I want more like they're starting to get more kind of obscure Asian horror on there, which is good. But I've seen all that as well.
So let's go on to the film, shall we? Law, anthology movie, which is a staple of festivals, I'm guessing. Gets more eyes on the film than just pitching it as a short. I'm guessing because they have short film festivals, which only the real hardcore go to, I'm guessing. Those are. Yeah. As such, we can probably judge each of these short films separately. I didn't notice if each one had their own title. So I've given them some names. Hopefully you'll know which ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, I actually got the title, so good.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so the campfire one. That's the bookend framing device.
Yeah.
I've got Scary Warehouse.
Yeah, it works. It's called Shadows, but I think Scary Warehouse covers it more accurately.
Yeah, I think Shadows, I clocked it, that one. But the other ones I've got Charlie! Charlie! Charlie!
That's called that's Hidden
Exclamation
Woman.
marks.
Funnily enough, that you hear Charlie 3 times in most pubs of a Friday evening as well.
In that tone?
Yeah, usually. With increased panic.
A small Elizabethan child.
Yeah, he was a weird kid.
All kids in horror films are weird.
That's true.
And next I've got Witchy Hotel.
Close, cheap hotel.
Oh,
so you got one of the 2 words right.
Yeah, I did look online to say they've actually named the films like in the credits or like who wrote them, produced them, or but there's none of that online either. And it's like I could go back and watch the entire film, but yeah, it goes in passwords and stuff. Okay, the last one I've got is Sin Enema.
That's actually a great name. That's much better than the actual name, which doesn't really make sense. I mean, it literally does. It's called Keychain Man. I would have gone with Sin Enema.
Keychain Man.
It's just called Keychain Man, yeah.
Oof, yeah, that's quite bad.
The only thing I got from that movie is I'm pretty certain that they used that same cinema, which I'm assuming was either at the time of filming closed down or yet to open. I'm almost certain they used that same set for another movie that was a big FrightFest movie probably 4 or 5 years ago with Robert Englund called The Final Showing.
I think I've heard of that one.
It looks identical. I'm fucking certain it's the same cinema. Yeah, that's all of the films. So they're your 4
so you got
anthology plots, and then obviously the overarching device, as it were.
Framing device. Yeah, so the whole premise of the film, 4 friends gone to a once-in-a-lifetime adventure in the woods somewhere. They do a lot of this apparently, and after a new thrill, this one is to be stuck in the woods with Richard Brake.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know who Richard Brake is, we kind of went roughly into it. He's done a lot of stuff, a lot of Rob Zombie stuff. He's very intense.
Yeah,
you know, he's the reason Batman exists in the Nolan universe. He played Joe Chill in that. There you go. They could have put that credit on there.
Yeah, fucking hell, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so this is a British film, and the 4 mates are northern. I don't know quite where they are from in the north. I just say northern because I'm from London.
I'd say it's 2 and 2 actually. You've got 2 sort of Sunderland and Geordie.
Yeah, I did get
accents.
that. Yeah, I got that.
You've got one which is more kind of southern, probably lives in London accent, the other guy. And then the chick, it sometimes sounds London, but then you get sort of a kind of broad Midlands cut through a little bit.
Mm.
But as you said, anything outside Watford.
Yeah, so with this age and look, and how it's shot and how they're acting, I'm getting very soap opera vibes from it. Maybe Hollyoaks. So Hollyoaks has a new character played by Richard Brake.
I'd watch that.
It's jarring.
Yeah, it is. It is. The tone shift is jarring because you've essentially got them being very British and sort of pissing about and, just fine. And then you've got Richard Brake doing Richard Brake things.
I've literally got that line written down here.
Yeah, so that's the first line I wrote down. I basically said, you've got some hitchhikers, nice aerial drone shots, 4 friends going on an immersive horror experience, Richard Brake doing Richard Brake things. Because it just is. It's just very intense. He's chewing the scenery, delivering like the setup for the premise beautifully. And then it cuts back to Geordie's doing like just Geordie Shore shit. It's like 2 shows jammed together. It's slightly jarring.
Yeah. So he tells the story of the land and the experience everyone's about to go through. It's a great 5 minutes of the film. That's my favourite part of it. Every time he talks, it's good though. Flimsy up for it, but it doesn't even complex really. It's an anthology. It's just stringing things together. Because I don't think these films are. I don't know if they were written specifically for this. They're like short films. I went, okay, we can put these into an anthology. We'll fit them in somehow.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of anthologies. So this seems to sort of borrow from the idea of scary tales to tell in the dark or that kind of vibe. But with those sort of anthologies, they normally the stories tie in more with the overarching theme. Where with this, as you said, they're basically just short films. They're standalone. The overarching theme is itself a short story. Nothing really ties into the other. Well, except slightly, there is one bit that sort of ties into the overarching theme, but it feels like an afterthought.
Yeah, you have to sort of link it in somehow. Each person has to tell a story and burn a little stick before doing so. Then we come back from those films and we get the cheeky lad saying something funny. The other one says something to point out how much of a bellend he is. We get a few more lines from Richard Brake doing what Richard Brake does, and then we go on to tell another story. That's pretty much that part of it. Yeah. And it was at this point you confronted with the reality of the situations where they're telling these stories around a campfire with their accents and in character. So from their perspective, they get in the Geordie going, and then there was this bloke like, and he's running through these from these other 2 fellas because he owes them money or something. Anyway, he wreaked canny and he makes he went to his warehouse and he like that stuff happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think of it from that perspective, where if you were actually one of the 4 around the campfire, that story would be shit.
Because, yeah, that's the basic premise of the first one, Shadows. It's told by the Jack the Lad, banterific, funny guy.
Yeah.
And that's what you'd think he'd be doing. He'd be like cracking jokes every 5 seconds. That's what she said. But if we get to the short films, you've got Shadows, as I called it, Scary Warehouse. This bloke Reed is running from these other 2 fellas because he owes them some money, like, and he wreaked canny and he breaks into this warehouse. I get in trouble for that accent.
Yeah, where is that from?
North.
Gadget's gonna like that one.
Why I?
Why I, man? Up the time, like.
Send him a book.
Which way to the door office? Which is always the Geordie that comes to mind whenever I'm thinking of bad Geordie accents.
So this one, I think it did what it needed to do. It got in, got out.
Yeah.
As an opener, it did okay.
It was a good opener. It set the tone, which it then spent the rest of the film ignoring, sadly. I would argue of the 4, this was probably the best in terms of how it was delivered. I think it was, for what they were playing with, without giving too much away, what they were playing with was basically 3 blokes in a warehouse.
Yeah.
And they managed to build a mood. You kind of understood what was happening pretty much straight away, which again, in this format, you kind of need to. You don't want 20 minutes of exposition in a 24-minute short, really.
Yeah.
I got kind of the same. So my notes pretty much run the same as you, but it was essentially Gavin Rossdale is running away from some chunky boys.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't get away from him being Gavin Rossdale for that whole film. It was all I could see.
Did you want him to take his shirt off?
I kind of did. I wanted Gwen Stefani to pop in and smell a finger.
Yeah, I think my only problem with this one was it was, and this is an argument of a lot of modern horror films, is using high definition cameras and like too much lighting.
Yeah.
It's taking the magic away from it.
Yeah, it wasn't dark enough.
Yeah, it's called Shadows, and it wasn't in the shadows enough. You could like see the monster. I'll give that one away. There is a monster in there somewhere.
Yeah.
You see it too much, and it took away from it a little bit. If this was shot on film and then put out on VHS and then double taped by a shady video shop owner, sold under the counter, it'd be creepy as hell.
Yeah, grainier, kind of grimier, basically.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of horror movies these days I've got that argument with. They just look too clean.
Yeah, a little too polished. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I think
We
the argument
go back to watch that old Argento movies, and they look like trash, and that's half of what's fun about them. Because they were shot on like the cheapest film they could afford, and the shittiest cameras, and like the worst special effects, and yet they're lovely. Some of them were absolute trash, but let's be honest.
We can go back to like even Hostel. When that came out, there was like this big buzz about it being super scary and brutal. I watched a pirate version of that, and this is a Handycam in the cinema with a low bit rate download. So a lot of the movie was a mess when I was watching it. You couldn't see anything that was going on half the time. Like things were slightly out of shot. The audio was all over the place. There were screamed and yells when it was like visually you couldn't see anything that was going on. And I think that's how Eli Roth wanted me to watch it.
Probably is, actually.
I mean, he's into his video nasty, so yeah, that probably enhanced the experience of it all. Because when I watched it on DVD, it was like, yeah, this is rubbish.
Yeah, I've gone back to those movies in the since, and yeah, they're not good.
Yeah, I mean, if they get messed up and, like say, on VHS tape, double taped 3 or 4 times, you're like, yeah, you won't be able to see much of it. It'd enhance it a bit.
So basically, you're the guy on X videos that watches everything on 280p.
Well, bad bit rate and like a shitty VHS tape is very different.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get on to the next film, which is what was it called again? Officially,
The Hidden Woman.
Hidden Woman, or Charlie.
Charlie.
Charlie. It's not me, Mummy.
Good point out that the cartoon cat is not in this.
Charlie says. I was listening to Prodigy earlier. It was great. Yeah, mum and a child, Charlie, moving to a house left to them by their matriarch of the family. Thoughts?
I mean, the problem with all of this anthology is it's quite hard to say anything without saying anything. Like in terms of spoilers, because they're not. So in my notes, I originally wrote this movie would definitely be designed for like a FrightFest audience, not knowing that it was, basically, because you can see, to use wrestling terminology, you can see where the pops are meant to be. Right, you can so you kind of know what they're going for. You know where the laughter breaks are, or the let's be honest, the jump scares, because there's a lot of that in this one. That's basically all there is, really. It's just a 15-minute jump scare, which is great if that works on you. But I've been immune to jump scares for like 20 years. They don't do anything other than annoy me because I don't find them scary and they're very predictable. You can tell them coming a mile away. So it's hard not to give anything away. But basically, all 4 movies break down. They're because of the simple sort of form they're gone for. They're basically 4 archetypes. So that first movie is essentially the creature feature. This is the haunted house, haunted object type movie. It's kind of like a shit Babadook. is what I got from it. It's got that vibe to it. Yeah, Baba Don't. Yeah, it's kind of Babadook-ish. A woman moves into what is presumably her dead mother's house. You presume she died suddenly and didn't just do a crime and get arrested. And then weird stuff starts happening.
Yeah.
So standard kind of haunted house, poltergeisty sort of movie.
Yeah. Over 90 minutes is sort of like the jump scares in it and the moments in it. Over 90 minutes, I think, would have still been too many.
Yeah. Yeah. If you spread them out, there's still too many. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But yes, smashed into 15 minutes, was it? Yeah, that
Yeah,
was just way too much. And like you, I'm not really into the jump scare stuff. I absolutely hated this one.
yeah. It was obvious where it was going almost immediately. Like as soon as the trip to the basement occurred. I won't say any more than that. But as soon as that happened, you were like, "Oh, okay, I know where this is going," and it did.
Yeah, it did feel more like a show reel for the special effects guys.
Yeah,
There's a lot of in it, and just like camera tricks and bits. You're like, oh, it's kind of nice, and then do it again and again and again.
yeah. Yeah, they worked really hard that opening scene as they're sort of panning in the house and it's dark and oppressive. And I was like, oh, cool, they're setting a mood. And then they just didn't really do anything with it after that.
Yeah,
And then obviously there is a scene that you'll know about, which went exactly where I thought it would, where the thing happens to the family. And the thing that is doing the happening, it behaves exactly as you would fucking guess it's going to behave.
yeah, yeah. I know exactly what
And
I'm
it
about.
kind of ruined it. It was. I think it had for me the opposite effect. I literally just I rolled myself into unconsciousness when it happened.
Yeah, this does sound terrible review wise, but yeah, it's hard not to be spoilerific in a 15-minute
It's
short.
very hard not to give anything away. All of that said, I would say it's the second best film
Really?
for
Okay.
me. Yeah, I really would. Oh, and I'm not including the overarching story because Richard Brake is the best thing in this film by a long way.
We agree on that one. Okay, next up, was it Filthy Hotel?
Yeah, yes, Cheap Hotel, same.
Okay, let's get filthy. This is actually probably my favorite one of the bunch. It's obvious where it's going.
Yeah,
Doesn't try to be serious, and you're like, okay, I'll just go with it, and it delivered exactly what I wanted to.
yeah, that's fair. They played this. This one is more kind of Hammer horror-ish, I would say, in its delivery. It's quite camp
Yeah,
in the 70s sense, like a Hammer horror movie. It's kind of over the top. You kind of know where it's going.
yeah. They actually played up a lot more to that side of things. It would have been a lot better. It's I like it what you mean, where it's like it's going that way. Where was it? Husband and wife are in a hotel to meet up with another couple to do some swinging, all being arranged by the husband, who's played by Rufus Hound, who's a bit of a dick.
Yeah,
Thinks he's going to get it on with hot goth, and she does what I suspect all hot goth women do in bed. There's no surprises there. I'm like, yep, that's going to happen.
yeah. I mean, it's the tropes that you're expecting. It opens with essentially Rufus Hound has cheated on his missus, so they're here to fix it by fucking other people or something. I don't know. I'm not sure how the logic works.
As you do.
As you do. And then stuff happens. Again, can't really give much away. But it delivers what you expect. Rufus Hound plays womanizing, coke sniffing dickhead quite well. Because I suspect there's not a great deal of acting going on. In full disclosure, I've never been a fan of Rufus Hound. I'm sure he's lovely. It's just something about him just irritates the shit out of me. And the fact that him and Russell Brand were basically all you saw on telly between like 2000 and 2010. Rufus Hound was basically the Dave channel until they signed other acts. Like he was on fucking everything all the time. And I just found him very irritating as a result. But in this he's fine. He does exactly what he does. He runs around in his pants a lot. I don't think that's a spoiler. It is half the film.
Yeah. I don't know if it could actually be pulled out to a full-length film, but it was a fun short film.
I mean, it could, but then it just becomes a Hammer horror. Like if you put that into an hour and a half, it just becomes like The Witches in the Forest or like any 70s Hammer, basically. Or an episode of Inside Number 9. Because it also had very like League of Gentlemen vibes, because obviously they reference those kind of movies, and there's usually a little bit of tongue in cheek there as well. So it kind of had that vibe to it.
Yeah. Speaking of those guys, final film, Sin Enema or Jangly Keyman.
Yes, the Keychain Man.
Keychain Man or League of Gentlemen Light. Because that's what I was getting with this one was that kind of humour, or attempting to.
Not only that type of humor, there is a bit which I wrote in my notes, where they basically three friends who are kind of just slightly annoying, three friends being at a film, talking in cinema as dickheads do. And then the one sort of serious auteur at the front of the cinema getting annoyed that they're talking during the trailers, who very clearly was supposed to be Reese Shearsmith. And they couldn't get him, or he said no. Because it's not just the accent, like the mannerisms, the character, it's all very Reese Shearsmith.
Got that written down here as well.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I actually felt like I think 20 years ago, those three friends would have been me, you, someone else going to the cinema to see some terrible film.
It would have been me, you, and Kaz going to see Jason versus Freddy, because we did. And we were the only ones that cheered when Kelly from Destiny's Child got murdered. And we all went, "Way!" and everyone else was cross. So yeah, I get it. I'm that person. I'm just 42 now, not 25.
Yeah. Do you find yourself relating to the guy at the front?
Yeah, no, 100%. I was that guy. I was fuming. I was fuming for him. And yeah, 20 years ago, I'd have been the other guys, 100%. I'd have thrown popcorn at his head and called him a wanker. I think I've done that in the past. But also, that one to me was the one that was most aimed at a FrightFest audience, because if you've ever been to a FrightFest movie, it's the opposite. Like, everyone's there for the same reason. Everyone's really quiet and respectful and attentive, because you're all there to see that movie. You, me, and my lady wife went to see Shaun of the Dead when it came out, if you'll remember. And that was a very different experience, because we went in with casuals. And it was a fucking nightmare, because it was just kids not really getting the film. And we were in our 20s then.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're going to see a horror movie with a horror crowd, it's very different to going to see a horror movie with a casual crowd. It really is a very different experience.
Yeah. So just a quick description of the film, because we haven't done it yet. It's actually a crazy killer and a cinema going after patrons for a midnight showing of a new horror film. Three friends and a slightly irritated patron see the movie for the killer to dispose of. That's it. It's loads of homages and tributes to past horror films. Everyone can spot them. You probably sort of got a bingo card for it. Some special effects, fancy kills.
Yeah.
Kelly got his own unique look and mask. Obviously, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, leather mask, a leather face. There's the head being cut off and the eyes blinking. It's like
that's probably the best scene in that.
Yeah. Thing is, when that happened, and the whole homages and tributes and stuff just makes me want to watch the films that they're spoofing and doing the tributes to, because that's obviously Dead of the Dead, and I watched that last week, and I think that's Dead of the Dead. That's an amazing film. I want to watch that again. That's all it makes me do these days. So yeah, this is, I would say, like a solid C movie overall. It's fine. It's yeah.
Yeah, it's just a standard sort of slasher fare, basically.
It's the full on comedy of it, and I've always been like taught, when you're doing something like building a story for going back to wrestling, when I was learning the tricks of that stuff, like booking a show, one of the things that stuck with me is you don't finish the show, and the main event is never a comedy main event.
Yeah,
you've got like the serious big one at the end, which sort of sends the crowd home happy or angry or feeling something. When it's comedy, it's kind of and this is just pure comedy.
Yeah.
To the other ones, if they flip this around, had shadows at the end, been a lot better, I reckon.
I said the same thing, actually. I think they should have bookended it with both the first and second should have been the first and last. Shadows should have been your first one, or Hidden Woman maybe, because it's strong enough as an opener. And then obviously Shadows is my favorite of the four. I think it's the best and most accomplished as an actual horror film. In its own right as a short, and they could have bookended it, because as with any sort of, as you said, with wrestling or any sort of show, you kind of want to start quite hot, then you kind of plateau in the middle, but you want to end big. You don't want to end on a fart, basically.
You don't want to end on the new song that's just nothing in the album.
Exactly. Yeah,
which no one knows the words to. It's like, what the fuck's this?
Exactly. You come back on the hits. You never come back on the new release. Like, it's just not how it's done.
You do the acoustic ballad at the end.
Yeah. I would say, I think the comedy element, if this had been second, it would have been okay. The best bit is the other attendant who comes into the movie towards the end. The female cinema worker, she's quite funny, and that interaction is quite funny. But yeah, overall, I just thought it was fine. It's fodder. It's a slasher movie, as you said. You get your kill de jours. It is really just about the fantasy kills. I don't know if you ever watched the TV show Slasher.
No.
So there's like 4 seasons of that, but that Slasher is basically that, but spread out over 10 episodes and 4 seasons. So it's kill de jour per episode, and there's lots of fucking around beside it. This is just compressed down to 15 minutes, and it's fine. It's like, so I watched it originally. I watched it last week to take notes and see it seriously. I watched it again last night, pissed, and it's much more fun when you're pissed. Like, it's a good kind of party movie. Like I said, as a whole movie, if there was a group of you, like 4 or 5 of you, you're having a few beers, watching it, it'll be quite fun. Just watching it alone with a cup of tea, which is not my want as generally, but during the day, so I had to be sensible. It's fine.
Yeah,
but I'd probably feel like that about most films I watch sober. Like, yeah, it's fine. Fancy a beer. This would be much better if I had a beer.
yeah. Then we come back and we have like the big ending, which I won't go into because leave something to the imagination.
Yeah, it ties in. It sort of ties it all together in a little bow. And there is a tie-in. There's a few Easter eggs as well in the Jangly Man. The key Jangly Man's a better title as well, to be honest. In the Keychain Man, there is a few little references to the other movies within it.
Yeah,
some posters scattered around and stuff, and that was kind of a nice little nod. Which again, when you see the tie up of the campfire, which I actually think it is called the campfire, to be fair, when you see it all tie in, it references back to the previous to the Jangly Man as well. So I can kind of see why it's in the position it is, although I think it would have been better elsewhere. I don't think it could have ended with that, because of the 4, I'd say that was the weak. So again, watched it with a wife yesterday, and she said about Shadows, I can see why this is the first one, because it's quite a good, but it literally does go downhill from there. There's no, it doesn't peak again at any point. For me, obviously, I would say the 2 is not as good as the first. 3 is fine, but again, not quite as good as the previous. And it's just a kind of, it degenerates as you go on. So rather than leaving you thinking, oh, actually, yeah, I'll keep watching, this is fun, you're kind of, oh yeah, it's just getting worse and worse. When's Richard Brake coming back?
So summing up, how would you grade this? Also, we've got to do it on average.
Yeah.
I would say it's been dragged down by one of the segments considerably. I really did not like the second one.
Yeah, that's fair.
If that wasn't there, this would be grazing a 3-star rating. But yeah, I have said like 2 of the films don't really appeal to me fully with what they were doing. The second one and the last one was just like, But yeah, if you like that kind of stuff, and like you say, if you're drunk in a crowd of people, it's like the short film festival, but without obviously all the title sequences and having to go through, oh, this is the next film, and it's by this person. Just constant film. You'll probably enjoy it more.
Yeah, I would say for me, it's probably 3 popcorns out of 5, purely because having watched it pissed and knowing it's a FrightFest movie, and having been in a number of FrightFests, and where they've shown this, that there's normally an anthology per FrightFest generally, and they play quite well. They're aimed at that crowd. It's all horror fans. Everyone knows what the references are. Everyone knows what they're doing, what the nods and the winks are. Which, as here, like, oh yeah, that's Dawn of the Dead. This is that. This is the Babadook. This is obviously a reference to that. I can see the twist coming from around the corner in Yesterday, but I know what they're doing and I like it. And it plays well in a crowd, which is why I said about the pops. I know exactly where the crowd would be popping. And in a Fright Fest, they do pop. But you get legitimate like pops. Like, way, and oh, no, it really does happen. It's a fun experience. So I can see what they're doing. And Richard Brake. The break of it all kind of raises the average. I honestly think if they had done more with him, it would have been better.
About him just telling all the stories.
Literally. So there, I can't remember what it's called, but there's another anthology come out a couple of years ago, and it was set in like an old man's house, and he's basically the librarian keeper of the story. And so all of these I basically class as crypt keeper movies. Essentially, you've got a narrator telling a number of stories. They're the crypt keeper movies. This particular one was played by what's his face, Clancy Brown.
Ooh,
and
nice.
which is brilliant because it's fucking Clancy Brown. But he narrates a lot of it as well, like, and it with that voice. Why wouldn't you use it? And I felt that a little bit with this because Richard Brake's got such a great voice for it. His delivery is brilliant. Like he was two different fit. Like he didn't belong in that film with the rest of them. It was essentially. And no offense to any of the actors, they all did a fine job, but it was essentially like the Amateur Dramatic Society and Richard Brake rocked up. Like you act on a Saturday and do Rapunzel, and this man has been living it for 50 years. It's just night and day. That's why Rob Zombie uses guys like him, guys that maybe don't appear as much as you would expect them to, but have been in shit you don't really know, but are really fucking good at being whatever he needs them to be, like super intense, super creepy, adds gravitas. And I know why they did it, like we said, cheeky northern lad, but every quip that is meant to sort of be funny just ruins it for me because I'm enjoying Richard Brake, and then you've basically just got a northern twat trying to be funny, which is the point, and I get it, but shut up and let Richard Brake talk, for fuck's sake. Just give me an hour of Richard Brake doing monologues, and I'd be a happy boy.
Okay, so that was Law. It will be available exclusively in the UK on the Icon Film Channel from the 26th of August, in select UK cinemas from the 27th of September, and then on digital download from the 21st of October. You can sign up for a 7-day free trial at iconfilmchannel.uk or via the Icon Film Channel on Amazon Prime. We're not actually sponsored by them, but I'll give it a go.
Fingers crossed, lads.
I got an interview with Rufus Hound to do now.
He's lovely. It's very funny.
We're doing his pants.
He's very good at running around in a trance and pretending to do cocaine.
This show was produced, edited, and open quotes, written, close quotes, by me, Dean, the African Guy. You can find all my stuff at TotalCultZone.com. That's TotalCultZone.com. Enter in 6 years of loyal service, which is good because I have no idea what social medias are on at the moment. They're all on there anyway. Find them.